Hi folks, this is Todd with Survival Sherpa. I've always tried to practice different skills, and one of them being, if I've ever injured an arm or something and I'm down to one arm, can you make fire? And obviously if you've got a Bic lighter, which I always carry, that's great to have. One of the challenges that we just recently had at our spring Georgia bushcraft campout was boil water using a ferro rod as your ignition source, and to do that with one arm. So I'm going to demonstrate how I did that, but I'm going to add a little more realism to it. I'm actually going to put my arm in a sling. If you're ever injured in some way, it's always good to have some type of material in your bag that that you can use as a sling. So in my haversack here, I've got an injured left arm. That's right, I'm right-handed. But either arm, I practice this both ways. Got the shemagh in here in my bag, and so if this thing's hurt, I'm just gonna kind of rest it on my bent knee, and I'm gonna put this sling on. I'm going to put this inside, my arm inside here, around my elbow. Now I'm going to tie this thing on using my mouth. I'll take this hat off so you can see what I'm doing maybe. So I'll use my mouth for one end of the shemagh, and I'm going to adjust this thing. To make a makeshift sling. Now with this arm, I'm going to try and roll that back up out of my way of my chest. Now that that's in there, I'm going to need to make fire. Now, the ferro rod is on my left side. I'm going to reach over here and see if I can't get this out of my sheath. Alright, so I've got a ferro rod. I've got a knife right here, which I'll use to spark that with. Okay. Now, the thing that you've got to have though is if you don't have ready tinder in your kit, Vaseline and cotton balls, all that good stuff that we keep in our kits, if you don't have it, you got to find some natural tinder. Cedar bark is very good because you can peel that off of a cedar tree, dead cedar tree, but the thing about this is you've got to process it down into finer, tender material. So with one arm, we're going to see if we can't do that. Let me readjust your camera. So with only one arm, this is going to be difficult to do. I'm going to hold it between my feet here and begin to work this around. And this cedar bark, trying to get it processed enough to where I can get it to take a spark from a ferro rod. It's not going to be as processed near as well as if I had, both hands. But we're just going to keep holding it with our heels and just rotating this stuff around in there, and it's doing a pretty good job of peeling apart and breaking it up into those fine fibers that we want. Now, even though you think you've got it processed enough. The prep time that you put into this right here is going to be key, especially with one arm. You've only got, you don't want to set back down and have to do this again. So I'm just going to keep processing. I still see some bigger chunks in there. I'm just holding it with the heels of my feet and ripping this stuff apart. Just as I would with two hands. Now, this is what I've got on the cedar bark right here. It's not as good as I'd like. You know, if I had two hands, then yeah, I could process it down a little better into some finer fibers. But for what we've got now, we're going to just set that to the side. Now, the next thing you're going to want to do is find a log, some kind of log or rock even would work. You're going to put your tinder material, the finest you can get, underneath that rock or that log on the opposite side. Now, with your ferro rod, we're going to just set it there, but we're going to take our striking device, which happens to be the spine of my knife here, and we're going to prop this knife up so that this log may be a little too large. Probably need something a little smaller. I'm going to use this rock, I think, and see what that does. Now, with the spine of my knife, if I'm using my right hand, if it's the one that's not injured, then I'm going to point the cutting edge away to my left foot, away from my right hand, okay? So now I'm going to create a little pocket down below there that will hopefully catch these sparks. I'm going to fluff it up just a little bit. Then I'm going to get up on my feet, and if I am hurt with my left arm, I'm going to put my foot on the blade of this knife and see if I've got enough room down there. Right here, yeah, this stuff is not processed enough, really, but hey, I'm injured. I'm going to keep trying. I'm going to try stepping on it with my left foot again. Get it centered over. Now we got some flame. And there we have it. So with that technique,